Let's now uncomment section 14 and see what we should do. Select Control and /. Okay, now you can see that we have a mutator method to define in whatever the type is for BB. You can see, you can right click and say open direction. You can see BB was declared as of type birthday. Okay, so now you can see that we should really add a new method in birthday class. And why is removeEntry a mutator rather than accessor? Because we are trying to call this method alone. That means we do not need any return value from that. So it should return void. So that's a hint for you that it should be a mutator method. Okay, and now this mutator method there should take string name A or B or C or D. Okay, let's see the hints over here. Remove entries from the book. When names are non-existing, in this case, yes, because the book is simply just empty. We haven't added any entries yet. So no names should exist. So if you want to remove any non-existing name, there should be no effect. Okay, we can program this quite easily by using the helper method index of that we defined in the previous section. Okay, let's now do that very quickly. But we will try to do partial implementation for the remove entry here. The rest is a little bit more sophisticated. We can do that in the later section where we need to. Okay, so now let's go to BirthdayBook and we're going to define this new method here. Okay, let's call that public void remove entry. Okay, it's going to take string and then name. Okay, if you see that, now everything just compiles. However, it wouldn't. We will rather have something that's more meaningful done, right? Okay, so if you do that, what's going to happen is the number of entries of the BB, which is empty, should remain to be 0, and also the length of the entries array should also be 0. Okay, that one's easy to satisfy, but I want to do a little bit more than that. If you go to BirthdayBook, so now let's see if the name exists or not, and we can call our helper method there that we defined in the previous section, which is the index of private method index of. Okay, which means the index of is going to return some valid index into the entries array if the name exists, and then that index should be between 0 and NOE -1, or it might return just -1 if the name does not exist. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So now we say that integer index is index of the name. And now we can say that if the index is less than 0 over here, this means the name does not exist. Nothing to remove, which means we do nothing. And over here, if else, that means remove the associated entry for name. Okay, we'll do this second part over here a little bit later for later section, but for this section here we simply do the following to say we figure out if the name exists or not by calling this helper method. If the index is invalid, which means it's too small, is negative, that means the name does not exist, in which case nothing to remove, just do nothing. Okay, and we're done for this section. Okay, go back there. Now let's just execute the code. You will see, okay, this is simply as expected. If you see the PDF output, you will see that for line for number 14, this one just okay. So now let's go back. Let's now to convert this into the JUnit test before we finish this section. Okay, now let's put it over here. Oh, beg your pardon. So you will add. Okay, let's just close this. Add test public void test 14 over here. Then move that to a little bit to the middle. And now this is what we want to do. Okay, let's make sure we got the empty BirthdayBook BB over here. And we want to make sure after removing the non-existing names A, B, C, D, the originally empty book BB remains to be empty, right? So now we turn the print statement into assertions. Assert equals on both cases, and then we want to make sure, first of all, the return value from get number of entries on BB should remain to be 0, and also bb.entries, which is an array, and that one is going to be of length 0 as well. Okay, now if I go to over here, you can see so far we have got 15 tests that's being accumulated, and all of them passed. Okay. Now I want to show you one thing. Remember, I said one of the one of the common mistake that you might have made. If I go to BirthdayBook, if I just go to getEntries over here, you can see getEntries over here. I actually simply didn't actually just return over here. Let me just fix that. Okay, that length. So now the common mistake is as follows. Let me just write it down. The common mistake will be just return entries over here. Okay, what if I simply just return entries? If I simply do this, even for empty BirthdayBook, I'm still going to return the entries array, which was initialized in the constructor as an array of maximum capacity 10. Okay, so that's not good. Okay, you will see that if we try to do this and re-execute a test, it's going to fail certain tests. You can see that it fails test number 9 and test 14. You should really look at that and see why. For example, in test number 9, it tells you if you have an empty BirthdayBook, and of course, if it's a bb.getEntry.length, the expected length should be 0, not just the length of the array. It should be corresponding to NOE, the number of entries. And similarly, you can also go to test 14. You can see that one shows you a similar issue over there, because after removing some non-existing names, the entries, the book should remain to be empty. So now this one also failed. You can see the good thing about having JUnit test. Whenever if I mistakenly make a change, and then I want to rerun all the tests, if I want to do it manually as before, I need to just run the tester, compare the expected output with the actual output with my eyes one by one. That's not so good. Why don't I just execute it in JUnit, click the button, and it tells me exactly what failed. That means I shouldn't introduce any more changes. I should just fix it, and then before I go on. Okay, let's go back there and remove that common mistake. Hopefully you see the point. Okay, there's a common mistake, so I don't want it. I want this more sophisticated mechanism to give me the correct output. Okay, let me uncomment this and rerun the test so that I can go on. Okay, this one should be there too. Okay, now let's go back there, and then we will see that all the 15 tests that we got pass.